want to make people feel the way this makes me feel, because this is like, it goes back to my childhood, really. It's like, this is the same way that music made my mother feel, you know? And I've just always been hyper-focused on the feeling of music. I had got released from jail, and it would end up being the last time I was ever in jail, which I'm super proud of. And I came here because Craig Morgan had this song called Almost Home, and I would listen to it in my jail cell. And the song was about a homeless man that was sleeping in the snow, and they were going to wake him up, and they thought that the old man was dead, and they shook him, and he said, dude, I was coming around the yard, I was smelling mama's sweet tea, I was having the best day ever before you woke me up, you know? And me and my cellmates used to compare that to jail, you know, like in this horrible circumstance, but kind of mentally, you know, you could always almost home. So I came home, and here I am with an ankle bracelet, and here I am Googling on the computer back then, Craig Morgan concert, Grand Ole Opry. I get tickets, spend my last little bit of money or whatever I had. I go sit down and I'm watching Craig Morgan, and I'm like, I didn't realize, I'd forgotten the structure that he would only sing 3 or 4 songs, you know? And he sang 2 songs, and I realized, oh no, he's not gonna sing it. And then he sang it, and I just cried. I almost cried talking about it. And I just remember thinking, man, that's what I wanna do. I just remember walking out to that stage, and the first time you walk out, you just check, you know, and you just knowing the grounds, the moment. I tell people it was one of the most emotional performances of my life, and probably vocally one of the worst. Because crying and singing do not go together. Let me tell you, you want to fuck a vocal cord up, just get a good old snot bucket coming. Big old snot rocket bubbling up in the back of your throat.
I just climbed out of a cottonwood tree.
You know, I never thought my second time at the Grand Ole Opry would hold a candle to my debut. And it was actually more special. I got to come the second time and do it on a night that Craig Morgan was playing, and Craig Morgan invited me to sing Almost Home with him. And I just could not believe it. You know, we're backstage practicing. Craig changed the key of the song for me. That's how awesome he was. But maybe one day I'll write a happy song. You know what I mean? But I just don't, it's not how, it's like therapy for me. It's like I walk in that room, and all of a sudden I just feel the need to express this pain that I've experienced in life. Yeah, so this was it. If he was by himself, he was at the bar. But if me or any of the brothers, because the brothers all came, everybody all came to see him, we'd always sit right here, then we'd all pile in. Some days it'd just be me and him. Some days both brothers would be here. Some days the sister'd be here, Uncle Buford. We joke and say he'd hold court. He always had somebody from the family meeting him right here at his he had a designated time every day. They knew when shifts were changing based on when Buddy'd walk in. I mean, we came here the first year they were here. And he died in 2019. So, I mean, consistently, in and out of jail, I'd come back, and he became his own. It ended up having nothing to do with me. I'd be in jail for 1.5 years, 2 years, and he'd still be coming here religiously. You know, this was his spot. I'm more known in this bar for being his son than I will ever be known for being a musician. I mean, it means way more to me that my father seeing me become a good man than to see this success, because he was so fucking gangster, he wouldn't have known what to make of this. But I will tell you a story that I've never told publicly. That was the best advice he gave me, though, that I carried into 30 different scenarios. We were sitting back at this booth, and I was fixing to break up with what would be later Bailey's mother. I'm bitching, complaining. I'm a child. I'm emotional. You know, I'm a kid. I'm 20-some years old. He finally goes, you know, he's drinking his vodka, chilling. He finally looks at the end of it. He said, well, I tell you what, I sure wouldn't leave my house if I didn't have one. That's all he said. And that was it, 20 minutes of me bitching. And he said, I sure wouldn't leave my house if I didn't have one. And I tell you what, dude, I have never transitioned a scenario, relationship, business, never left one distributor without knowing where the next one was gonna be. I applied that to core principles in my life. I know where I'm going when I leave here now and when I leave the next spot. And just day-to-day principle. I know where the fuck I'm going. I'm not leaving my house without having one. First thing I want to touch on about my juvenile charge is this. People could have got hurt, and by the grace of God, thankfully nobody did, because we were young and reckless. And I think about that all the time. I never want to minimize the nature of the seriousness of that crime. I do want to emphasize, though, that I was a 15, 16-year-old child. I had yet to hit any kind of real puberty. I hadn't hit my last growth spurt at that point. I was 6 inches smaller than I would end up being, or 7 inches in life in general. I mean, just in physical. So think of the mental growth. You know, they say the brain doesn't develop until you're 25. I was almost a decade behind that. And I was charged as an adult. Years before I could buy a beer, lease an apartment, get a pack of cigarettes. I missed all of these things, but I was treated as an adult. I missed all of my high school years. I didn't get my GED until I was in jail the third or fourth time in my 20s. So you're like, what else do you do? By then you're kind of driven to the streets. You know, I feel like the justice system at that point kind of parked me in my only set path. And to this day, as a 38, 39-year-old man, I was just turned down a house because the community wouldn't let me be a part of the golf course because of my felonies. Can you imagine changing your life in such a way that you can afford the kind of house in this community I was looking at? To be accepted, my money was welcome, but I wasn't. I always had one foot in and one foot out. I just never had enough faith to focus only on the music. So even when I was in the streets selling drugs, I was passing out mixtapes with quarter ounces of cocaine. You know what I mean? I always knew that the music was my only chance because I knew the way the people in the community responded to it, that it could be big. But I was so focused on not being broke that I never would take the chance to risk losing all of that for this, was my problem. But that's probably, I've never said this to nobody because it's hard to admit that, but I had to really internalize the struggle of like, you're letting go of for sure money. Risky money, could get killed money, could go to prison for life money, but consistent money. To say I'm gonna go live in a van and chase this dream for 10 years.
I only talk to God when I need a favor.
I had already wrote probably 60 or 70 songs towards my new album. I scratched all of them but two. And I said, man, this is like this is where I'm at in my life, right? I'm a dude that's taking his daughter to church on Sundays. She's still a little shithead. She's still getting in trouble. I'm still having to keep her on her grades. I'm still, you know, she had a little incident with some marijuana. She's going through what 15-year-olds go through. I went through all that. So it's like such a connection, and I know that's whenever my life turned for the all the way worst. So it started bringing up all these emotions of me being right there on that fence. I was right there halfway between heaven and hell, you know, kind of right there on that middle point of life. And I seen her rocking that same boat, you know, and I was like, oh, that's what this is right now. That's why I wrote Hungover in a Church Pew, and that's why I wrote Going to Church. This album is that. You know what I mean? This album is that. And that's what country music is anyways, right? 3 chords and the solid truth. Like, how much more true does it get than sitting inside of an old Baptist church I got baptized in 20-something years ago, have since done nothing but go to prison, do a bunch of people wrong, make a lot of mistakes in life, turn it around, go on to be a fucking multi-millionaire, help as many people as I possibly can. It's the fucking wildest story ever to me.